YouTube, vinyl community, what is happening? It's Eric B, High Definition Television, as if you didn't know. Back again, before the end of the year even, before the very end of the year that is, before December 31st. Did you think I'd put out another video before January 1st rolled around? I honestly didn't. But you know, it's that time of the year. It's that time of the year where people sit down, if they haven't already done it, and put together their best of list for the previous year, in this case 2022, duh. Whether that's favorite LPs, favorite EPs, favorite CDs, favorite split records, favorite reissues, some sort of what I liked best in 2022. Now, in this case, in my case here, I kind of wanted to touch on some of my favorite pickups from 2022. Used records. A couple of these, some of these you may have already seen. But I thought it'd be fun to go back through what I consider some fucking vinyl high points for me from stuff I brought home this year. So the first thing we're going to start with, without any delay, Angels on High, Rejoicing Upon Where I Sit, for bringing you this. I'm just kidding. That's terrible. Miroslav Vitous with Magical Shepherd. First of all, this was a total blind buy. Hopefully you can see why. I mean, just look at that cover. I mean, that's a gimme. It's obvious. Why would you not go home with that? I actually picked this up at Daybreak Records locally, place that I've talked about many, many times. I was in there one night talking to the owner, the homie, about jazz, some of the stuff that he'd just recently gotten in. He hit me to this. It was up on the wall. Wasn't super cheap, but it wasn't super expensive either. I saw that record cover and I knew I didn't even need to check it out at the listening station. It was just going to go home with me regardless. He kind of hyped it as fusion, more or less. His words actually were, well, it's Miroslav Vitous. He's in Weather Report. You like Weather Report, don't you? And I said, I like the first 3 Weather Report records. They're quite good. And he said, it's a no-brainer. Take it home. But, big but, eat a gummy or 2 before you start the record. Give it a little bit of time to take effect. Turn the lights down a little bit and then put that record on. So I did that very night. And man, this record is killer. It is a fusion record, but it's wild. I mean, it's a fusion record that sounds like a fusion record with this album cover would sound like. It's frilly, it's pompous, it's a little bloated, it's spacey, it's atmospheric, it's got fucking disco elements to it. It's primarily Miroslav Vitous on bass, also touching the 360 guitar synth, as well as one of the tracks I believe on here, he plays a Rhodes electric piano. He's backed up by none other than Herbie Hancock. And this is an album from 1976. So that era, Herbie, will give you a very good indicator of what kind of chops he's bringing to the table on this record. There are occasionally vocals on this record. It's wild. It's all over the place. It's a very intense and just almost overwhelming ride of spacey fusion funk. It's killer. It's just awesome. Also on the jazz front, this is one that I've avoided showing up to now. And man, this has become probably my second favorite record of jazz that I've discovered since diving into this experiment, the 2022 Great Jazz Experiment. And that would be the first Pharaoh Sanders record with Tawhid. Not sure if that's the correct pronunciation. This is Impulse. Pretty fucking decent shape on this bad boy, or Bad Larry, as they say. I mean, what to say about Pharaoh Sanders, Tawhid, that hasn't already been said by somebody more eloquent, somebody more versed, somebody better acquainted with jazz than me. I kind of have become, in the course of delving into jazz and fusion and its offshoots, if I find something I really like, I tend to hyperfixate on it. And that's what I did with this record. And I did not relent until I found this copy. It's just otherworldly, celebratory, joyous extrapolations of music and ambience and atmosphere and some very wild free jazz. But one of the things that I love about this record is that while it is free jazz, it's never inaccessible. It's very easy to sit down and listen to and get lost in. Like I said, probably second favorite next to Don Cherry's Eternal Now. Amazing fucking record. Super glad to have found that this year. Got a couple recent ones. Gong, or Planet Gong, if you will. Live Floating Anarchy, 1977. Yeah, I mean, this record, look at that. You're in for a good time with this record, let me tell you. This is David Allen and Gilly Smith, or Gilly Smith, I don't know. It's on Charlie Records. I managed to luck into a bunch of Gong in 2022. Got the Charlie label there. And this is one of them. And I lucked into these Gong records within like a very short span from each other, and all locally. This record, I mean, I guess it's technically live, but it's also considered a proper record. I don't know that these tracks honestly appear on any other albums that Planet Gong put out. This is, of course, David Allen, supported by the Here and Now, a art rock band from UK, maybe? Not 100% sure on the lineage of the Here and Now. What I've heard of them, very good. This is just a rockin' Gong record. It's not as weird as an album like You by Gong is, or even Camembert Electrique. This is just kind of a freewheeling rock and roll record with a lot of weird little idiosyncrasies here and there, a lot of strange ambiances, a lot of odd atmospheres that crop up now and again, retaining that Gong flavor. Just rad, awesome find, super stoked to have it. My Gong collection is officially complete with that record under my belt. And this, found at the same time, same place, Faust Tapes. This is an early press on Virgin. And this record, it's not my favorite Faust record, but man, it's something you don't ever see in the wild. At least I don't. I had to snag it up, and I decided that I definitely prefer it to Faust 1, but Faust 4 it remains my favorite to this day. Probably because it's a little bit more put together, a little bit more composed. This is a little bit more avant-garde, a little bit more abstract. Still a great record. Every track on here is a good time. It doesn't really flow like an album per se, just because the tracks on here are kind of put in here on the order that they were recorded or put together. It's just a cool album, a cool find, and it's something I'm super hyped to have been able to add to the collection in 2022. Now, here's one that you have seen already, and that will be this Negazione. I mean, how could I not include this? Lo Spirito Continua. I could have pulled the Indigesti as well. I thought I'd give you guys a break. I know Mike, Uncommon Pallor, he just showed that record. And really, between what I've already said about that Indigesti and what Mike just said, there's not really anything more I need to add to that. I mean, the same goes for this record. There's really nothing I didn't already say about this when I initially got it that I need to add to it. Just killer Italian hardcore, absolutely essential. If you're at all interested in the lineage or history of not just Italian hardcore, but European hardcore as well. Killer album, absolutely mandatory, essential. Now, another hardcore record, which I know I didn't show when I picked it up. This is a weird one. This is a bit more obscure. It is Corruption of Peace, aka Cop. First of all, look at that fucking album cover. So good. A-bomb through a guy's head. This band, they're on Discogs, but there's not really a lot of information about them out there. From Japan, however, the lead vocalist is a American named Kevin Crow. The rest of the band, Japanese natives. What you get here is nothing that sounds even remotely like what was generally coming out of Japan at the time that this came out, which was, oh shit, I want to say like 87, 86, 87. Let's see if I can find a year on here. I should have written this shit down, but I didn't. So you'll have to excuse me. And there is an insert. Look at that. Look at that business. Got lyrics. With not much more information beyond the band members again. This record, though, it sounds straight up like a Southern California hardcore record. But it's played with a ferocity, like a feral just vitriol that you would only really hear out of the Blazing Spirits bands from Japan. It just lacks that, dare I say, wankery that you'll find in most Blazing Spirits hardcore records, like anything by Death Side or their ilk. This is just a very straightforward hardcore record. Sounds like I said, sounds like a Southern California hardcore album, and it doesn't make it any less vital or mandatory or crucial. This record is killer. Absolutely a favorite of mine for sure, and one that I'm super hyped to have come across, added to the arsenal this year. There's another one I picked up, and I picked this up at a time when I don't know, kind of a time when I think I really needed to pick it up. Now, I was very familiar with this record. I've owned it previous iterations throughout the years, many times, but not currently. And when I came across this at a shop, it was a shop that I've been into once in my life, because it was in a different location, different town from where I live. Very cool shop in the Burien area of Seattle. That'd be this New Model Army, Thunder and Consolation, 1989 masterpiece. Wow. I mean, this album is, if I had to describe New Model Army, I could take the lazy route and say they're like Killing Joke's baby brother minus the industrial elements. Like I said, that's really the lazy route. There's definitely similarities, especially when you kind of look at like the post-punk leanings of both Killing Joke and New Model Army. New Model Army has a much more folk-oriented flavor to their sound. Very indebted to like songs of like Irish Revolution or Scottish Revolution. Definitely anti-authoritarian. If you've never heard of New Model Army, they're probably best known because Sepultura covered their track The Hunt, which is another killer track off of another killer record, which actually I also picked that up this year at a different spot. This record, though, is just a perfect amalgamation of New Model Army at the time. You've got lyrics, which you put this record on, you're going to want to read the lyrics. The lyrics are smart. This is a cerebral record. I don't say that lightly, but it's true. There's a lot of import to the lyrical content on this record, a lot of emotion, a lot of a lot of rage, a lot of anger, a lot of joy. It's just a fantastic record. Crucial, again, another mandatory release, in my opinion. And kind of along those lines, we've got Savage Republic with their first record. This is a first press. However, when they did their first press, they did about like 4 runs of that first press, each with different colors. This, I believe, was originally either red or orange, and has since been stained by the wear of time. And of course, screen printed by the band themselves. I believe one of the members. This is some, like, you know, nobody needs to really know this information, but one of the members of the band ran a printing press, and that's where they did all of these records up. Tragic Figures is the name of the record. There is the original insert. Kind of seen better days, so I don't keep the record in that biz. This record is just another, there's the labels. Not that it's important for you to see those. Not super exciting. This record is a mishmash of different elements. It is a wild and out there listen. I know Richie picked up the reissue of this album this year, and he had nothing but praise to laud this record with, and with good reason. It is it's a post-punk masterpiece. It's got goth leanings. It branches off into like surf at points. It's like, imagine an industrial Link Ray, and you get some idea of the sound of Savage Republic. This record is one of a kind. Not even the record that they followed this up with would sound as forward thinking. Just a killer record. Again, I've been throwing it around. I do consider everything that we're looking at here essential, mandatory. We're going to look at Ochbom, Coupe de Metal. Again, talked about this some months back. Let's talk about it again real brief. French heavy metal. Sounds like just filthy Motorhead worship in the best way. Absolutely killer. One of the essential French heavy metal records, EP specifically. You can put it up there with that first Sortilege EP. This is just a rad album. Not easy to come by. Hyped beyond all hyped that I have this in the collection now. Killer. And the last record, the last of the 10. Again, another one that we have talked about. Maracage, with their self-titled on Lice Records. Much like Ochbom, just filthy Motorhead worship. A lot less tight than Ochbom. Probably more comparable to Volcan, which I believe I said in the video where we initially talked about this record. But a lot sloppier than that Volcan or Volcane, or however you want to pronounce it. Absolutely stellar fucking LP. French heavy metal. That's mandatory, absolute best. That's all I've got for you. Best of 2022 pickups, high definition television. I will be back before the end of the year, not on this channel, but on the Heavy Metallurgy channel. I'm going to be popping up on stream with Marty, Alan, who knows who else. It's going to be a free-for-all at the end of the year. Everybody's discussing 5 of their favorite releases from this year. I don't know who all is going to be in and out of the fray, but that's going to be next Friday, December 30th. I hope you all tune in. I'm going to link Heavy Metallurgy down below on Marty Worm's channel. So I hope you all join me then. In the meantime, I got all next week off. Maybe there will be something else on the channel before then. Who knows? Time will tell. Take it easy, YouTube. Thank you for watching. Thank you for engaging me in this conversation about music, this perpetual, ongoing conversation that we're having about music. I love it. That's why I keep doing this shit. Don't be shitty. Be good to each other. Be good to yourselves. And I'll talk to you soon. Later.